Gil Caps from the Golf Channel is here. We've got Rickie Fowler in the lead. Gil, he is in a spot that he's not typically in, at the top of the leaderboard on day number one. So, from what you've seen from Rickie in day one, does he look like he's got the legs to finally get that major?
You know, it looks like he may. Unfortunately, golf is a 72-hole contest and not an 18-hole contest. So there's a long way to go and navigating a lot of holes, a lot of other players. And unfortunately, maybe in the next couple of days, a little bit of weather as well. But, Mike and Pete, I hope you guys are doing well, first of all. Good to talk to you as always. It's kind of been a little bit of a streak here with first-time winners in major championships. We've had 6 in a row. We've kind of had some guys win in that span that, were considered, one of the top 2 or 3, at the time, players not to have won a major. We had Jason Day get his. We had last year Dustin Johnson get one. We had Henrik Stenson. And, of course, at the Masters this year, we had Sergio Garcia. So maybe Rickie kind of thinks, hey, I'm right in line here. I could be, lucky number 7 here on this streak and finally get one. But I think too with Rickie, and you're kind of seeing it play out here on the leaderboard. Erin Hills. We can talk about the course a little more as well, but it's really a course that I think favors guys who are great drivers of the golf ball, and that's for 2 reasons. Number one is because it's a U.S. Open golf course where they've left the driver in the player's hands. They're not handcuffed off the tee. Wide fairways, lots of long holes. So these guys, like you're seeing at the top of the leaderboard, Rickie Fowler, Brooks Koepka, J.B. Holmes, Sergio Garcia, to a lesser extent, well, they're a little older now, but they weren't really great drivers of the ball. Lee Westwood, Ernie Els, all those guys up there under par having great days. And so, I would, of course, Dustin Johnson had a great day today, but I would be surprised if guys like Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy, Jason Day weren't kind of in the mix over the weekend, because I just think this kind of course favors those types of players.
Gil Caps with us. And Gil, I know that at one point when I looked up at the leaderboard, there were about 51 golfers that were at even par or better. The U.S. Open traditionally likes to challenge to par. This 6-7 under, that's sort of a surprise. Is Erin Hills not shown its teeth yet? Is that what we're seeing?
Well, I think there are a couple reasons there, Pete. Number one is this is a par 72 golf course. Usually USGA likes to go in and tinker a little bit, and they'll take maybe a hole that's a par 5 for members, and they'll just move it up one tee and knock 20 yards off of it and make it a 500-yard par 4, instead of a 520-yard par 5, and that kind of cloud scoring a little bit to par. But this week it's par 72 for the first time in 25 years, which means these players and what they do on the PGA Tour and all the other events is those par 5s where they score. That's where they take advantage of their length and take advantage of their, they're so good. Unlike normal hacks like us, right? I do my scoring in the par 3s because I have less shots to screw up on. Where it's the opposite for pros. The more shots they're given to get the ball in the hole, the better they get, and the more they take advantage of their talent. So you add the par 5s, but you also have it is, like I said, for the longer hitters. There's more room off the tee here than, forget the U.S. Open, from almost any other tour event. There's all this room off the tee, and I think it pays this week to be aggressive where you can. But I'll say this too: there were a lot of good scores early, and now you look when guys finishing rounds. Just a little bit ago, I think there were 18 players who had finished under par today, and I'd expect that number to be a little more with this half the field done. To be perfectly honest with you, those conditions are very good today for scoring, in my opinion. Even though there is a little bit of wind, but these guys are so good. I thought it would be kind of there for them today to put up a lot of red numbers. But at the same time, Erin Hills, if you watch it here on television, there are a lot of places where you can kind of get yourself in trouble and make a big number just like that. So I think this week we're going to see lots of birdies, lots of good scores, But then on the flip side, you're going to see a guy who's playing great and all of a sudden finds a spot of bother in some of these very unusual bunkers or very high fescue and quickly can make a bogey, double bogey, triple bogey.
Gil Capps with us as we talk about the 117th U.S. Open. That's at Erin Hills in Wisconsin. And yes, it is a long course, Gil, 7,800 yards. Those par fives all start with a 6, including the 18th at 663 yards. And yes, some of the long hitters can get in trouble. I saw Dustin Johnson take a double bogey 7 earlier today. Rather than capitalizing on the par 5, he ran into trouble. There's a hole I specifically wanted to ask you about, though, Gil, and that's the par 3 ninth, where some of the guys are finishing up. I was told that even 2 or 3 weeks out, the golfers were all buzzing about this par 3 and how they were going to land that ball on that green.
It's become kind of our version of people remember watching some of the Open Championship, the British Open last year from Troon, where it's named the most famous short par 3 in golf, the postage stamp. And people are talking about this kind of becoming the American version of it, because it's only about 150 yards or so. It'll play a few different tees during the week. Short iron in hand, downhill. But goodness, it falls off in every direction. These bunkers around the green that, and if you watch this week, the bunkers very penal, very few flat spots in these bunkers where normally on a golf course the ball roll in the flat spot and it's fairly easy, shot for most professionals. But here you can get all kind of strange lies, and I think the USGA, they've been around the block or two with this kind of stuff. Pete, they've had some issues with holes in the past, and I think they've been very careful here with 9. It seemed like today, if you hit a good shot right in the middle of the green, most balls were coming to a stop. Wasn't playing overly difficult the last time I checked, but I think it's concerned going forward in the weekend as you kind of want to get different hole locations around that green and putting in a spot where, maybe in order to get close, players, take some chances and find themselves in a spot of bother on that hole. But I think that's one of the great things I enjoy in golf is seeing those little short par 3s that, should be easy peasy, but they're not.
We're talking with Gil Capps with the Golf Channel. Gil, obviously, we're underway, so we do have a couple of guys out there in front, but a couple names you're looking through for the weekend for our listeners, a couple guys you like to make it to the finish line and be in contention on Father's Day.
I think it's a big-name golf course. I think it's, like I said, it lends itself. In this day and age, your big-time players are long hitters, and that used to not to be the case, if you guys remember, right? Back through the 70s and 80s and even in the 90s, you think of guys like a Nick Faldo, right? Or maybe even Tom Kite, guys who won major championships who didn't hit the ball long at all. I mean, they didn't even hit the ball an average length. They were shorter than average. And it's changed so much with, I think Tiger's one reason it did, the way he played encouraged people to play more aggressively and try to hit the ball longer. But then the equipment and the technology has lent itself to favoring and to allowing these big hitters to succeed. And then the setup of a U.S. Open like this, it just plays into guys like that, their hands. So Rickie Fowler, I think Rory McIlroy, if he wouldn't have been, with this rib injury he's had, the big layoff since the Players, that would be the question I have about Rory. But it wouldn't surprise me, if he's there. Adam Scott, I would put in that category, and Sergio Garcia, because now, he's playing with house money, and that's something that I think really gets overlooked. That once you kind of have some success, have a win and kind of get that monkey off your back, you feel maybe you can take some chances or do some things that you normally maybe wouldn't do because you're trying to play maybe conservative or play a different way, to get that win. So I think maybe he may be freed up. Maybe he can get 2 in a row here. So those names I would look out for, and anybody who's who's a really good driver of the golf ball and really long. That it seems to be the case, and also too, it's obviously we talk about Erin Hills, a new golf course. It's only the new golf course to host the U.S. Open in the last 4 decades.
Wow.
And you look at the guys who won the other 4: Tane Stewart, Tiger Woods, and Jordan Spieth 2 years ago at Chambers Bay. Pretty big names, and I'd be shocked if we didn't see a big name win on Sunday.
All right.
Hopefully Sunday.
Yep.
Knock on wood, Sunday.
That'll boy, Gil.
Gil Capps is with us from the Golf Channel. The U.S. Open is underway. Rickie Fowler is in the lead, and of course finishes up on Father's Day as tradition would have it. Gil, we always appreciate the time, pal.
Mike and Pete as well. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy watching the U.S. Open.